In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
It's of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills,
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform.
Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 handpicked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Amy.
And I'm Erin, and this is episode number 56. I Want to Be Adored.
This is a song from the Stone Roses, and I picked this.
Yeah, you did.
I was going to say, I picked this because, and then you just said, yeah, you did. And I was going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
I liked the idea that we hadn't really delved into fame or seeking fame before. We've kind of talked about picks that think about the music industry or the film industry, but like that desire to be known, to be famous, to be adored, you might say.
I like it.
Yeah. So we chose some good stuff for that.
Yeah, we did. So, have you ever written a fan letter, Amy? Or had an experience where you got to fangirl out?
I was kind of thinking about the seminal 1980s magazine, Teen Beat.
Teen Beat.
Yeah, where, and if no one has had the pleasure of looking at these Teen Beat or Bop, maybe. Remember Bop? Yeah.
Oh.
I think there were more, but those two I remember particularly.
Yeah.
It was basically for us teenage
girls. Wasn't there
girls.
a Tiger one?
There was Tiger Beat.
Tiger Beat.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were designed just for us, teenage girls. By showing pretty much prepubescent actors and musicians and like even fold outs. Like now that I think about it, that's weird. It's like a Playboy fold out, but with a young Ralph Macchio or something.
Edward Furlong is the one I remember.
But I remember those magazines because I felt like that was my first like, oh, this is like what it is to be a fan. You know, you have to like what they do, but also they have to be cute and they have to be attractive.
Right.
And I tore out a bunch of pictures of New Kids on the Block. And I put those up in my locker in junior high. And then they came to the Iowa State Fair. And I was maybe 12, 13. And it was a general admission show, and you could tell every young teenage girl from the entire state had come to stand in line at the state fair in 110-degree weather. I don't know. It was real hot.
Probably.
And at one point, they were using hoses to hose us all down, which I don't know if it was trying to cool us off or like, calm down, girls, calm down.
Were you accidentally in the kettle barn? Why were they hosing? That seems very weird. Let's take it a whole nother direction.
Right? Yes. So that is what I remember of like what being a fan was.
Okay.
And then finally getting into the grandstand and getting to see New Kids on the Block, but they were tiny little guys on the stage. And then I started not just watching them, but watching everyone else, like people watching, seeing girls use their goddamn minds. And that was really fascinating to me. I think that's when my people watching fascination started.
People watching is the best.
And yeah, I think after that, honestly, I wasn't as big a fan of New Kids on the Block. It was like seeing them in their tiny little glory, singing "Hangin' Tough."
Just
didn't do it for me. Yeah.
I had a keychain, like a kaleidoscope keychain that you could look in and you could change the picture of them. Yeah. There's like 3 or 4 pictures and you click the button on the top and it changed the picture.
Did you have a favorite among them?
No.
Yeah.
I didn't either.
I did
It's like
either.
almost I viewed them as one.
Yes. Yes, they were all just one thing.
Yeah. One big
Created
grimace blob of
one big machine
music.
Created
Yeah.
band.
right.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, now I kind of think about Donnie Wahlberg because he's probably the most famous of them.
Yeah,
but
that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Joey McIntyre.
Yeah. He was the young guy.
Yeah.
Remember?
Uh-huh. I
Please
kind of
don't go,
liked his
girl.
look. Yeah. Yeah. I'm not
he didn't
going.
have any
I'm
body.
not leaving.
No, I don't think he had any body hair at that point either.
Probably not.
Maybe he hadn't gone through puberty. Anyway,
Yeah.
Thinking about fandom, about celebrities, do you think you're more or less likely to watch something or buy something or try something if a celebrity endorses it, or if a particular celebrity endorses it?
I would say yes to half and no to half. I would say yes in terms of watching something. If someone's attached to a project that I really like or have grown to like, then I'm way more likely to watch it or put it for sure. Like I want to check it out. Like some of the comedians that I love or particular actresses that I've really liked their work,
Yeah.
then absolutely they could get me to watch it. In terms of like buying things or trying things, I think it works the opposite. I'm usually like
Yes,
a little
me too.
weirded out
Yeah.
or I'm skeptical automatically. I'm like, what are you
Massive
doing?
skepticism, yeah.
Why is
Yeah.
this happening?
Yes.
So I feel like partially that comes from a place like a lot of actresses that I really like don't do that. Like I don't
Yes.
see Kate McKinnon shilling for anything or Adie Bryant or,
Yeah.
Amy Poehler outside of like educational things she shills for. But I mean, they're
That's
not
worth shilling for.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
try. I don't see that. So it
Yeah.
always makes me like, what are you doing when it's somebody, that's like Jessica Alba trying to sell me her cleaning products and
or
baby
on-
stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like,
or on Instagram lately, I've been seeing Olivia Wilde's now selling this like face stuff. And I'm
yeah.
like, oh man, like I really liked her and respected her, and now I'm just like, well, I mean, I guess she has to pay the bills too.
Yeah, and maybe it's great stuff. I don't
it
know. I
is.
just
I
won't be
just
the
don't
one to
wanna do
find
it.
out.
No.
Yeah, I just won't.
Yeah,
I
get that.
won't. So I think sometimes for companies, save the money.
Yeah,
You're not doing yourself any favors.
yeah.
And honestly,
You are having the opposite effect, where your two prime potential buyers, me and Aaron, are saying nope.
another thing that relates to books with that is that I pay no attention to blurbs. Do you pay any attention to blurbs?
No.
I pay, the book is solely on either what I've heard about it or whether I
Yes.
like the author. It means very little to me if another author's
Yeah.
read it and said I like this. It just doesn't.
Which is so interesting that that's now like what the book industry
Yeah,
sort of turns
it's a big
on,
part of
that
it.
is.
Yeah.
And we've learned that from talking to some of our authors in our bonus
absolutely.
series, that's a huge part of both selling their book, but also then being part of the literary community. Is you sort of feel like you have to sort of
Learn
swap.
things, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So interesting.
Yeah. If you were famous, Amy.
Oh, God, I can't wait.
Yeah. What would your first public meltdown be about?
Snacks.
Oh. Yeah.
Listen, whoever's with me when I'm uber famous, because obviously this is going to happen, they're going to have to know to bring snacks at all times.
Yes.
Because I can get real hangry,
That's just a blood sugar issue.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
you can't help that.
If I go a few hours without eating something, I'm going to turn real bitchy and I have no power over myself. So if you want to avoid that, you're going to have to bring me snacks. So I imagine a situation where someone, whoever this mythical person is that's like minding me, has not brought any Reese's Pieces in their bag or some other snack. And I just lose my shit.
Yeah.
And then it is blasted to the entire world and I'll still own it. Because I'm like, yeah, you're right. They forgot my snacks.
I didn't have Reese's Pieces.
Yeah.
What do you not understand
Yeah.
about this? It's
So
not that hard.
That's what I'm envisioning.
Okay. I can get
Will
on
you
board
back
with
me
that.
on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Good.
I mean, I'm a little scared because in this scenario, I feel like I might be the person minding you, which means that I forgot the Reese's Pieces. But if I just happen to be
Yeah,
like
that's true.
along and I'm like, hey, you're trying out this new assistant and they failed, I will back you up 100%.
Yes. No, this wouldn't happen if it was you. Like I wouldn't have a meltdown.
Well, I
if it
wouldn't
were
forget
you.
the Reese's Pieces.
Well, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if I was going to have a meltdown and you were around, it would be directed elsewhere,
Yeah.
just at the whole world.
Yeah.
Yeah. For
And
really.
then I'd be like, mic drop. And we walk out after you. Like, oh, yeah. Ride or die. I don't know what that was about.
Yeah.
I'm supporting her.
What's going to be great is we're going to do this before we're uber famous, and then it's going to go viral, and people are going to be like, wait, who are they? What is happening?
Why she really likes her Reese's Pieces.
She really likes her Reese's Pieces.
Is this a Reese's Pieces Super Bowl commercial?
Also, Reese's Pieces, we've called you out multiple times on this podcast. If you want to get in on this sweet action, then send me a crate full of Reese's Pieces, and we'll talk more about you.
You don't even have to pay us.
No,
just pay us in Reese's Pieces.
Send me a good supply, and we're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
How likely do you think that's going to happen?
Scale of 1 to 10? -2. Shit. I feel like we might get a cease and desist before we get a crate full of Reese's Pieces. Could you please never mention our product again? Ever.
We will pay you not.
I don't want you to be seen in public eating our product. Just forget they exist.
Oh, boy. Well, what do you think? We might have just answered this. What do you think is the worst job in show business? Besides minding me and forgetting your snacks, and then I lose my shit. What do you think is the worst job, and would you be willing to do it?
I think the worst job has to be like the PR people, the spin.
Right.
Like they do something crazy and then you have to spin it. And I absolutely wouldn't do it because my one trigger is just completely being not logical. Like not being able to listen to reason. Like if I told you not to do something and then you just went nuts and did it anyway, there's nothing I can say. Like
I want to be just like, lie in your own bed, man.
Yes. Yeah. I have to walk away. And I think that's probably the opposite of what a PR person's supposed to do. They're supposed to get in the trenches and help you out. And I'd be like, look, you blew this shit up. I'm out. Like I told you not to do that explicitly and you did it. So no.
And I feel like too, like publicity is turning into this real dark area where it's trying to, drudge up drama. It's trying to look for moments like this, which I would want no part of. I would feel so dirty.
No. Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I'm willing to sell my soul for Reese's Pieces, but beyond that,
I've got standards.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't be able to do, and I might even you might be able to get me to do some of those dark things. I just wouldn't be able to deal with the person. Like, I'd just be like, so really, that's what you did?
Because I bet that's basically turning into a babysitting role.
It is. It is. And then now you put me in a mom role and now I'm going to have to discipline you so you don't do that again because we need to learn from our mistakes and you're clearly not learning. So... You know what? Now I've come full circle, and I feel like now I do want to do it. And now I want to be like the PR person everyone wants, and I'd be like, I don't know if I can take you on.
I think you would do a good job.
We're gonna have to work on it.
Yeah,
but let me think about it over the weekend. I'll go back to you on Monday.
Would you then go for the really messed up people just so you could? Just so you can turn them into a better person or discipline them?
Discipline them. Yeah. Put them in a worldwide timeout. Here's looking at
every
you,
place
Justin
in the world.
Bieber.
Oh, God, he's scary.
What's going on there?
I don't know. It freaks me out,
It's like a weird 90s skater
It feels
image.
like
so
I'm looking at a
weird.
sex offender every time I look at him.
And the song's called Yummy.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry. That was more of a plug than I ever wanted to give him. But
yeah, well, he was on SNL a few weeks ago with RuPaul, which RuPaul, wonderful.
Great, knocked out
But then
the park.
Suddenly the music started coming on. I was like, what is happening?
in a box.
This is real. This is scary.
But also like slow motion. Like I almost felt like I was at like a spring talent show at a school.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's different.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, he's very courageous. We'll give him that. Politely
I don't
clap.
think he's aged well into his
I don't think it's
whoever
going well.
he's going to be. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I want to be adored. Justin Bieber was adored for a while, and then things turned
Look what
weird.
happened.
Yes. So my fiction pick this week is called A Song for a New Day by Sarah Pinsker. And I will also say that while I was reading this book, every time I picked it up, I got Promise for a New Day from Paula Abdul in my head. Do you remember that song?
Yes.
Promise of a new... There is nothing to do with Paula Abdul in this book. And it was a real disconcerting experience every time I picked it up. So I just wanted to give you a glimpse into my world and in my head. Okay. The book is actually called A Song for a New Day, as I said, by Sarah Pinsker from 2019.
Okay.
Luce is a musician, and one of her songs is just taken off. So she's headlighting this big marquee, like this is sort of the moment where things are going to start really happening for her. But then out in the world, there is this coordinated series of terrorist attacks and bomb threats on a scale that's never been seen before. So the government's response is to outlaw public gatherings, including concerts. So then a few years later, Rosemary is a virtual customer service rep. And in her world, this is maybe a couple decades after those laws have changed, no one goes out into the world anymore. Everyone stays in their home. Everyone works virtually. Everyone gets things delivered to them by drone. And the only contact with other people is in this place that's called Hood Space. It's sort of internet virtual reality kind of thing. Okay. So Rosemary hears about this company that does virtual concerts. So you go into this virtual reality, you see like a concert and these musicians, but it's not like an actual public gathering. So she becomes a talent scout. And in that way, she finds this underground community of tiny illegal house concerts where all these musicians are still performing. And Luce is one of them, this woman that was going to make it. So Rosemary first has to discover like what it's like being out in the world, let alone being in a tiny concert space with people around her. And she's been taught to believe that being around people is dangerous and it's scary. And pretty soon, though, she realizes that virtual concerts aren't really good enough. They're no match for like what really happens in a live show. So I chose this book for a number of reasons. One, there's kind of two different kinds of musicians here. There's those that sort of want all the trappings of fame and money, and they're willing to align with this company that's doing virtual concerts because they'll give them fame and money. Sure. They just won't have real people watching them.
Right.
Then there's the musicians that love music because you get to play for people and you have that connection with other humans. And the fame and the money maybe isn't as important to them. So neither one of those is necessarily wrong. It's just there's this two different kinds of fame and music playing now. So I think this was a brilliant concept. And what I love is there's nothing really like seeing a band live or discovering a band live. And this novel kind of channels that by outlawing it first and then bringing it back into the world. And so that's so cool. And Sarah Pinsker is a musician herself. So she's able to write about music in this really wonderful way that makes you feel like you're in these situations, both in Rosemary's situation and Luce. And it's a really wild ride. I recommend it.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Not a promise for a new day. Just to be clear.
Not Paula Abdul.
As much as I keep repeating it, which makes it less clear.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
my fiction pick this week is called Kiss Me First by Lottie Mogek. This was published in 2013. So Lila is the main character. She's a young woman that's very isolated in her everyday life. She was raised by a single mom, was kind of kept inside. You didn't really connect with peers. She struggled in that way, but she's very, very intelligent. So she discovers a website called The Red Pill, where she can kind of let the part of herself that she feels the most confident about out, and that's her intellect. So this is a website where people go to have like ethical debates and talk about political discourse. I mean, high-level chat room, basically. So she's almost like addicted to the attention that she receives on the website because she doesn't get that anywhere else in her life. There's a lot of validation for some of the thoughts she brings forward and how she processes things and how arguments that she presents. And she garners some support and attention from the founder of the website named Adrian. And Adrian, out of the blue, asks to meet her. And so Lila, beyond flattered, is like, yes, and decides to take this risk and do it. And when he meets her, he says, I have a special project that I would really like you to be a part of. It's called Project Tess. And what he says is that he is helping this woman who is unhappy in her life disappear, but he wants someone to play her on the internet. So it appears to her family and friends that she's still alive, just not around them, or still around, just not, whether that be like in another country, traveling, whatever. So he tasks her with studying this woman, getting to know her. How does she write? How does she talk? How does she act? What kind of pictures does she take?
This feels like it's going down a bad path.
Yeah. So she's supposed to help this real person disappear by impersonating her online. And like you said, bad path from there. Can't tell you much more because I'll ruin all the twists and turns.
Right.
But it is twisty. It's dark. It's super interesting. It is just like this bright spotlight on the lengths that we go to feel included and to feel connected. And particularly in the age of social media, the lengths we go to convince other people that our lives are picture perfect and great.
Yes.
Like look at how great I am and look how wonderful this is. And that's the part of the book that I really loved, was just this like, okay, I'm putting up all this fake imagery, and these two people that are working on the project know it's fake, but all these other people are just buying into it and probably feeling inadequate in their own lives because it looks like she's doing so great.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a really dark commentary on like the downsides of the internet and the downside of social media. It kind of does this thing where, kind of like a bad dog, you like rub, the reader's nose in it. Like this is sketchy.
Like, do better.
Yeah. And there's a lot that you can see yourself in if you use social media at all, unfortunately, that you can, no matter how cognizant of it you try to be or how much of a conscious user you try to be, there's still parts of it that you're contributing to just by using that. So really interesting book. A lot of interesting takes in it. Also great psychological thriller on the side. So I really enjoyed it.
What a great pick for this theme, though, that it deals with social media, which is, I think it is such a way for people to feel adored or to try and feel like less lonely, even though then that contributes more to loneliness. It's such a strange system that we have now.
It is.
Yeah, that kind of precludes human connection. That's not really there.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, we've talked about that before, too, where, we're in this life that seems like we're more interconnected than we ever used to be. But at the same time, we're almost more lonely than we ever used to be because there's a lot of fakeness to all of that.
Right. Like we're not being the real person that, we could be. Yeah, we're putting our best face forward. So in that way, we're not actually having human connection where you reveal all your faults and your flaws.
Yeah. You're not actually making connections outside of, I have this many friends and they all liked this picture.
Yes. Yeah.
So.
Or you could go the route that we go where we just lay it all out for people.
Right.
Like, listen, this is who we are.
None of this is made up. This is
Please
me.
adore us anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to be adored.
Who doesn't want to be adored?
Right?
Yeah. Well, for other genre pick, I went with another music themed. This is Just Kids by Patti Smith from 2010. So I've talked about Patti Smith before, both her music, her writing. She's phenomenal, just artist of all kind. But this memoir is something even more incredible. It's a memoir about her and her musical journey and living in New York City in the 1970s, but it's also about her partnership with Robert Mapplethorpe, who was this iconic queer photographer. And so it starts where it's talking mostly about her personal story. She's going to New York very young. She's going broke, but she has dreams of making art, like so many people do. They go to New York or LA and they're trying to make things happen. And she drifted for a time, as many young people may do, until she met just very randomly this guy named Robert. And they immediately were very kind of kindred souls. They were both really into poetry. They were both extremely ambitious. They knew they wanted to make art, and they were trying to figure out ways to do it. So over their time together, which was over 20 years, they encouraged one another. They managed one another. They were really trying to make fame happen for each other, which is such an interesting idea of this collaboration, yet very individual careers at the same time.
Right.
So as part of the book goes on, where she's meeting all these figures of late 60s, early 70s New York, like Jimi Hendrix, the Velvet Underground, Jim Carroll, Andy Warhol, Sam Shepard, like so many cool people are coming in and out of this story. And it chronicles how Patti becomes a musician, how she starts putting her poetry to music and creating this sort of early punk aesthetic. And at the same time, Robert is becoming a photographer, and he starts digging into like S&M type photos, and he becomes very iconic in that path. And over time, Robert realizes he's gay. And so their relationship, which sometimes has been roommates, has been lovers, has been friends, it sort of shifts and morphs as he starts to figure out who he is as their careers take off. But it's still there. They're still very, very tight. What's kind of interesting is that, you think about like looking at a music memoir or biography, and I think there's a tendency to kind of romanticize things or to look back with a bit of nostalgia, and everything's so idealistic. And there is some of that in here, but it's also extremely gritty. Like, there's lots of drugs happening. There's Robert is occasionally a prostitute to get by. And the relationship does suffer as their fame sort of rises and ebbs and falls and everything. And he ultimately dies of AIDS in 1989. But up to that point, they're absolute soulmates. She finds and marries somebody, has some kids, but she's writing this 20 years later, and it's so touching and heartfelt that this was such a specific moment of time, but also this huge part of her becoming who she is and he becoming who he is. It's really wonderful. And even if you're not a huge music person, I think this is just such a interesting story of a relationship, as well as a sort of creative collaboration and just all the different ways that you can connect with another human being.
I've heard a lot of great things about this memoir.
Good.
I mean, just when it came out, it was just like a smash hit. I mean, people were about it.
Yeah, and I actually brought it to my book club and made them read it. And
you did.
But they actually, not everyone is into music either, but they really enjoyed just the relationship aspect, the history of it. Just she has an ability to just really invite you into her story, and it's really incredible.
Very cool. Well, for the other genre pick this week, I brought a nonfiction collection of essays by John Hodgman called Medallion Status, True Stories from Secret Rooms. So this was published in October 2019. If you're unfamiliar with John Hodgman, first of all, how is that possible?
Shame on you.
Yeah. And second, he was one of my favorite contributors to The Daily Show under Jon Stewart.
His deadpan is just fantastic.
It's unrivaled. It is so good. And so he started out actually as a literary agent and then moved into writing, which is kind of how he landed on The Daily Show. And then he ended up being a frequent contributor and then kind of a regular. And then from there, he actually ended up with some acting gigs. When Jon Stewart turned it over to Trevor Noah, he didn't stay. And so he went on and he a few comedies, a few like dramas, a lot of different things. But so this book actually explores like his rise to fame, what that feels like to be adored, to be let into these secret things. And then also what it feels like when you kind of lose that status and like you're used to it. And how does that feel when it's not there? So the whole book is organized around secret rooms or sects of society that only like elite people are allowed into.
SECTS.
Yes.
Okay, because at first it was like secret rooms and sex. This is going a real weird place I would not have expected from John Hodgman.
No.
Okay.
No, none of that.
All right.
Sex.
Oh, okay.
That didn't make it sound
any
more clear. All right. Well, you get the idea.
Yeah.
But the backdrop for the whole book, where the title comes from, is that he's got this relationship with an airline, and he won't say what it is, but he calls it Beloved Airlines, where he becomes obsessed with being like their top level member, which you get by doing miles and traveling first class. And then you get into this special lounge, and it's kind of this backdrop the whole time of like, yeah, I did it because then I got this many more miles, and I got so hilarious.
Like that's his gauge of success. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And he writes, to me, his writing, it's so great. It's like witty and humorous, but he also just writes what we're all thinking. Like just, and has that great ability that I think really great comedic writers have, which is to point out something that is a truth, but you never thought to spend any time thinking about. One of my favorite essays is about how he always goes to this hotel. When he had to travel for some of his acting gigs, he stayed at the same hotel, which apparently a lot of celebrities stay at. Like it's got a private entrance. So it always felt magical to him because he would run into people there. He'd end up having dinner with random people or whatever. But he happens to stay there one time around the Emmys. And this is post Jon Stewart, so he's not going to the Emmys. And they're having an Emmy after party. And normally the hotel will like leave an invite for everyone that's there. Like you can come down to the party because you're staying here or whatever. But he doesn't have one that time. Ooh. And he has this like total breakdown of trying to figure out how he can be invited to this Emmy party that's in the lobby of this hotel that he's staying at. And his whole like thought process about it and then coming all the way back around to like, okay, what am I doing is terrific. And I love that he's that honest because some people could be like, well, I didn't really care. I enjoyed the night in my room. No,
that's not true.
Everybody would care.
Everyone would care. Yeah.
Another one of my favorites is a story about his favorite vacation spot, which he actually wrote another book about called Vacation Land before this one came out, that his family travels to. But there's a story in here about when a stranger comes to this area, because it's very small and tight-knit. So like they know John and his family. They know all the other people that live there all the time and then that stay there. So this new guy comes in and like how they all handle that. Hilarious. So a couple quotes that just gives you an idea. My favorite kind of science fiction is post-apocalyptic dystopia, but I just heard at the bar that that genre is going out of style. Frankly, that's not a future I want to live in. Like, it's just so funny and dry and
you just heard it at the bar, so it has to be true.
And then this one, which kind of hits on the theme this week. I grew to really love the exquisite humiliation of auditioning. When you audition for a role, everything is organized around reminding you that you do not matter. It's the best therapy I ever received.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, that's a great way to spin it.
Yeah. So it's great. It's a great read. So much of his voice obviously comes through perfectly. Terrific. And if you have ever seen him and thought that he was funny, you'll love this book. It was great.
Wow. Wow. The notice about auditions, two things. One, it reminded me of our interview with Chanel Benz when she described like the humiliation of going to auditions where everyone looks the same or everyone's skinny or whatever.
Tell us a story about a wedding.
Oh my God. Terrifying. Yeah. But then also, that for some of this fame and adoration, you have to basically like humiliate yourself and prostrate yourself in front of all these people with the hope that maybe someone will like you and elevate you to this fame. That sounds terrifying.
And there's a other part of the book too where he's talking about some of the acting gigs he took, and obviously he's not, Brad Pitt. He's not getting but there's some on TV shows, and he reads parts of the contract that are sent to him. And it's just terrific because it's like he plays he always ends up in this role of playing kind of like a villain guy, like a nerdy villain guy. And there's one where he's like a nefarious oboe teacher, and he has to be naked and hold an oboe. And so he reads the writer about his nudity and everything. But it's great, like imagining him getting that and reading it and then him sharing it in the book was,
oh my God.
It was
the question,
terrific.
did he get that role?
Yeah.
So somewhere.
So he's actually describing going through it after.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It was great.
So somewhere there's footage of him naked with an oboe. It's, that's something.
Lying on a bed.
Oh God. Okay. I don't know if that's better or worse or what.
I don't know. Okay. I'm not going to go there. Backing out of that thought.
Could have gone some dark places.
I did, yeah.
Well, speaking of dark places, boom, transition. I'm killing it on these. I'm glad we didn't try and high five again, though, because that was real awkward.
That got weird. We won't do that ever again.
We basically just don't touch. It's
mentally
fine.
High five.
Yeah,
Mental
exactly.
High five, yeah.
My pop culture pick this week is called Boogie Nights from 1997.
Yeah, it is. Okay. All right.
Paul Thomas Anderson, who, by the way, did you know that he's married to Maya Rudolph and they have 4 kids?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
He chose well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Probably married up, really.
That is married up. Maya Rudolph? Are you kidding? Yeah.
So a little tidbit for you.
How could you, I would be terrible in those situations because or an Amy Poehler, anybody like that I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
They would hate me. Like, we would get past one date and they would be like, I can't do this. You are too obsessed. I'd be like, say something funny.
But that's a good point. Imagine dating like somebody like that. And you're either trying to one-up them, like making jokes or something,
so
which
I'm funny
probably
too.
Disastrous, or waiting for them to do something,
and then
funny.
just being way too over the top.
Oh God,
not everything I say is funny. No. I was serious. I have a weird mole.
Yeah,
I need to talk to you about this. I'd be like, that's such a good bit. Oh my gosh, you're a genius.
You were hilarious.
Yeah. And they'd be like, we're done.
Yeah. We're like, this is not happening. Well, it happened for Paul Thomas Anderson.
Well, good for him.
Yes.
Good for him.
So I want you to remember back to the mid-90s when Mark Wahlberg was known mostly as Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Funky Bunch with those Calvin Kleins.
Yeah. Brother of Donnie Wahlberg from New Kids on the Block. He parlayed his own sort of fame into this sort of rap thing where he basically was shirtless a lot and like, feel it. Good vibration.
What am I feeling? Feel it. Yeah. And the numbers are always sticking out.
Right. So that was him then. This was before. He's now sort of a more serious actor.
Yeah.
At the time, he'd done a couple movies. Do you remember Fear with Reese Witherspoon? And then in 1997, this new hip filmmaker who would go on to marry Maya Rudolph taps him as a star for this crazy movie. So Mark Wahlberg plays this young guy in the late 1970s who we eventually come to know as Dirk. He's a busboy at a club in Southern California. And one night he catches the eye of a producer played by Burt Reynolds. Dirk's got a good look, but rumors swirl that he also has a giant penis. And Burt Reynolds, being a producer of this huge new genre of porn, is like, that's my guy for my next movie. And Dirk wants to be a star. He always has. He's really dreamed big. And they're telling him that he can be a star because of his body, because of his look, like all of that. Mm-hmm. He's like, sign me up.
Done.
So from there, we are introduced to SoCal late 1970s porn and the whole scene there. And Dirk does become a huge star. So we see that happen in the movie. And the movie has Julianne Moore, Heather Graham, Philip Seymour Hoffman, John C. Reilly, Don Cheadle, so many amazing people. And it's this incredible ride through sort of the heyday of 70s porn when it was still in like movie theaters, and then as it transitions to the VCR era. And of course, as many stardom stories have, there's some reckonings with drugs, with crime, all the elements that can get wrapped up in stardom, a lot of things specific to sex work stardom. And I like, though, that, there's a lot that's sort of maybe played for laughs. Like, you kind of are like laughing at the scene. But at the same time, Paul Thomas Anderson, I think he's so good at creating real people, real characters. So you can't judge anyone here. You're introduced to all of these people, potentially their reasons for being there, their desires for stardom, and you're pulled in to all of them. Even Dirk Diggler. I mean, he's just a guy that wants to be a star, right, and you're sort of on board with them. And so I really enjoy that it's a very human story with just people that are dreaming big. And they dream their way into porn.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's been a while, but yeah.
So there you go. Porn stars. Mark Wahlberg.
That was a good one.
Who then went on to such great roles as The Departed. I can't remember. Did he win the Oscar for that one? He was nominated.
He was, but I should know that because that's like one of my top favorite movies of all time.
And I think of him all the time when I think of that movie.
Yeah. It was a great role.
Yeah.
That whole movie is terrific.
And now he's the one of the owners of Wahlburgers. So there you go.
Which is why Mike loves him. Mike's decided they're friends.
Oh, really?
Huh. This is where we're at.
Okay. Yeah, didn't you go on vacation and Mike was super excited there was a Wahlburgers nearby or something?
Yeah. No, he looked at some place and what did he... We didn't ever go there on vacation. But yeah, I can't remember where we were looking at going, but he got super pumped that there was a Wahlburgers. Yeah, he is really, really, really into it.
And why is that?
He loves it. He really likes their burgers.
Okay.
I think he likes the environment because it's just pictures of Mark Wahlberg and movies and whatever.
Did you know that he was such a Donnie and Mark Wahlberg superfan?
I don't think he knew he was.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And then he just thinks their prices are terrific. He doesn't know how they're selling that food for that price. I hear that a lot. Loves their onion rings.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think it's the whole experience for him. He just really enjoys it.
Do we have one here in Des Moines?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's in West Des Moines. Yep, over by Jordan Creek.
Can't say I've ever had an interest to go over there.
I don't know. I do think they have a vegan burger.
Do they?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I have to go now just to see what's up with this.
You might want to.
Is Mark Wahlberg usually on the premises here in our Des Moines branch?
No, there's lots of cutouts of him. But if you listen to Mike talk, then you would think that you could run into him at any time.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike should really be their PR person because he sells it hard.
Increasingly, as we learn more things about Mike, I feel like we need to do a Mike episode where we just do a deep dive, bring him in here, ask him lots of questions.
That'd be a great bonus.
Right?
Oh, my God.
A deep dive with Mike.
That's a great bonus idea.
Do you think he'd be up for it?
Yeah, he'd do it in a heartbeat.
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, we could come up with some good questions for him.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like all of that. Yeah.
I like that Aaron's actually writing it down, and you may bring it up to your husband.
I'm gonna.
Okay.
We'll see what he says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell him he can talk about Wahlburgers and why he loves it.
He'll be done.
There
He'll be
you go.
on
Okay.
just for that. Yeah. We could even do a themed episode where we picked books that we think remind us of Mike, and then have him respond to why we picked it.
Oh my goodness!
I know.
We could go a lot of directions. This could be its own series.
It could.
It could be Sit Down with Mike.
Sitting down with Mike. Sitting down with MJ.
Maybe it's a quarterly check-in with how Mike's doing.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And just see what's on his mind. What's he's
Yeah.
obsessed with these days.
Right?
Yeah.
That sounds, I should do that.
Oh, boy.
At the very least, we should start getting a quote from him in every episode somehow.
We really do. I mean, because Mason is often represented with his quotes.
Yeah.
We need a Mike quote.
Yeah.
We need a quote of the week.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
That's terrific.
This is so great when we come up with these ideas
on the fly,
air.
and then we make it happen.
Yes.
Oh,
Wow.
I love it. Well, for my pop culture this week, I'm bringing you a podcast.
Oh, yeah,
And
you are.
let me just tell you, first of all, that Amy actually recommended this podcast to me.
Oh, I forgot I recommended this to
Yeah,
you.
you
Okay.
did. And now I'm gifting it all to you.
Oh.
So this is kind of a double gift because we both liked it. So just saying.
Double bonus. Double
bonus.
pick.
So this is called The Clearing, and it's by Gimlet Media in conjunction with Pineapple Street Media. And it's like a scripted podcast in the sense that it's a story that they produced. It was released in 2019, and it follows this character. I shouldn't say character, this person named April, whose father was Edward Wayne Edwards. And if that means nothing to you, as it did me, he may or may not be a prolific serial killer.
Yep.
He definitely murdered people. We just don't know how many.
Yep.
And so she's kind of going through this thing where she's questioning all these memories she has of childhood and realizing that he was probably murdering people. And going back through his notes, going back through recordings he made of himself, there's just so much there. But the way that they put this together, I mean, it's true crime in the sense that, you know, you're dealing with crime, but it's so much more than that. It's so interesting to listen to her take on her dad and her she's horrified by things. She's the one that actually brought him down, that turned him in. And so she's horrified by these things, but then she's also not willing to just say, yeah, he did all this. Like, she almost defends him in some cases. And it's beautifully done. It was so great to listen to. I picked it for this week because a lot of her father comes down to wanting to be adored.
Yes.
He wanted attention.
Yes.
He wanted all the attention, and he would do a lot of crazy things to get it. I mean, I'm thinking of a specific clip right now where there was reports of like continual shootings at his house, like drive-by shootings, but it would be one bullet. And one time it very narrowly missed his wife. And later, after he's been caught, he's in police interviews and he admits, no, like I did that. And they're like, why? And he's like, just, get attention, stir up stuff, have the police come and talk to me. Like, that's the level you're dealing with.
Yeah. And part of it too, like, isn't he recording himself
all the
constantly?
time?
Yes.
Which is so eerie because that is something that if you followed, Susan Cox Powell case, which I recommended a thing about that. Her husband recorded himself all the time.
You know what?
And her dad.
When you were talking about that, I was thinking of The Clearing and how he can't even help himself sometimes. He's recording things he really shouldn't if he wants to stay free. It's like he can't, his ego is just so much.
They can't help themselves.
Yeah.
Or they think that, and I think part of it is like they think down the road they're going to be such a big deal that this stuff, like April talks about the fact that at one point in jail she receives a note from him and it's literally just his signature and it says, keep that, it's going to be worth money someday.
And doesn't he like try to sell books? I mean, he's like trying to.
That's how it all started because he was a criminal and then he got reformed, found religion, and then he wrote this book and he traveled as a motivational speaker for a large amount of time saying like, I went through this, I did this, and now look at my life. It's so great. In the meantime, he was murdering people.
Killing people, yes.
Killing people.
So, that's such a great pick for this because, there are so many twists and turns throughout the show, which are fantastic. What I really liked, too, was how in some cases she's able to bring clarity to families who had no idea what happened to some of the people they lost.
Yeah.
And she's able to, like, by bringing some of these recordings of her dad to local police or whatever, like, connect the dots and solve some of these cases. Even though it turns out it is her dad, she's willing to do that because she wants to help these people out, which was so powerful.
It was. And then there are times where she says, no, it can't be him. This can't be him because of this, this, and this.
Right.
I mean, she's willing to go wherever it falls, either way, on either side. It was very interesting. It's very interesting to listen to her growth as a person because you can tell at the beginning she's really struggling. Like, she gets headaches a lot when they start talking about it. She kind of shuts down, you can tell. And then towards the end, the more and more they're getting into it, you can tell that it's easier for her to open up. It's it's easy. She's starting to trust herself because she was like spent a lot of years doubting that her memories were correct.
Right, like thinking through things, thinking she remembered certain like real weird signs of stuff, and doubting herself, and then realizing, oh wait, no, this was all true.
That was all true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fascinating. Wow. It's great. It's like 8 episodes. You'll like it. I mean, even if you're not really a huge true crime buff, to me, it's so much more than that.
It is. It's very much like it's about relationships. It's about a kid trying to figure out who their parent is, for better or worse. And you're right. It is about like seeking fame. Like he wanted it in any way. And there were so many times too where he was like trying to admit to things, right? Like he would send stuff into the police. Yeah. But they would, but it wasn't like enough. Yeah.
It was like he wanted the attention, but he didn't actually want to like go down for it. It's very weird. Yeah. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not he's the Zodiac killer, which if you're...
That was fascinating.
Yeah. If you've heard that, then that's like mind blowing because to hear that, but it's something. I really enjoyed the experience. I think it was super well done. I think it was produced expertly. The narrator does an excellent job of, guiding you through that process. I think she's a fascinating person to listen to and see that side of it that we don't see a lot.
Yeah.
So
great pick.
Get after it.
I'd had this on my list as one to potentially recommend in the future. So well done.
Thank you. Stole your glory.
That's okay. I have more glory coming.
Okay. I wanted to just roll with that, and then I was like, I can't let it go. I can't. She's got more glory coming.
So much glory coming.
So much glory.
For when I freak out to the media.
Glory. That's what it made me think of. Civil War.
That's not the glory I'm thinking of. Not Civil War glory. Nope.
That's in the domain, right? That's public domain by now. I hope.
Think so. That's been
Abraham Lincoln ancestors own that or something. They got to pay Honest Abe for glory, hallelujah. Because
Honest Abe still getting money, like royalties from stuff?
I would think if it was so still, it would be his ancestors, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine meeting and they're like, look, my great grandpa was Abraham Lincoln, and I now own the rights to glory, hallelujah.
Yeah.
And you're like, what?
You'd be like, wow, this is not what I expected from a first Bumble date.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I own the rights to all theater boxes, so... Can't talk about those without paying me.
Yeah, that wasn't the glory I was talking about. But I mean, I'm going to be famous for something
now. It's really in mine.
Glory. Yeah. Oh, dear.
Why? What was that in? Why do I even know that?
Because we all learned it as kids. And I think it was a church song, too.
It was?
Battle Hymn of the Republic, wasn't it?
Oh, maybe. Yeah. When does that get trotted out? Why would I ever have sang that?
I don't know, but I remember that too.
Is it like a 4th of July?
Maybe. Because I remember the words to it.
Oh, you know what I remember it from? I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this now.
You got to go with it now.
It's not there anymore, but Disney World used to have a Hall of Presidents.
Oh.
And it was, I know this is nerdy. They don't have it anymore because it was so unpopular, but it was one of my most favorite things. That they had wax figures
so unpopular?
Of all the presidents. People would only go in there if it was raining. I went there every time. Oh,
okay.
Only have figures of wax presidents, and they would like say something that they were famous for, do something. And I'm pretty sure when he was talking, it went out on glory.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
I think that's why it's embedded because I really liked that.
Huh. Okay.
Which is questionable. On a lot of levels.
Yeah. Well, as usual, we've revealed a lot about ourselves.
Too much.
Whether it comes to your weird Civil War fixation or my fact that I'm going to freak out over Reese's Pieces.
You know what doesn't freak me out?
What?
Killer listeners that write reviews.
Oh my God, you're right. I mean, they may freak us out in like the best way, in like a good way.
Yeah, in a good way.
Not like Civil War reenactors who freak us out in like all the bad ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you like that transition? I need a little credit for it.
So good. Like I wanted to high five you again, and then I remember that we suck at this.
Man on high fives.
Did you realize that we were running long on this weird like Civil War element of our end of our episode?
Yeah.
And you were like, let's bring it back.
Get away from Hall of Presidents because I admitted that and I feel kind of weird. So
you're trying to cover your tracks, really.
Cover the wagons.
Okay,
let's get it back.
Okay, let's do it. Mm-hmm. Well, as you said, listener reviews.
Amazing.
We've been starting to read some of them at the end of the episode
because they're gems.
Yes. Guess what? We got a new one.
Ooh.
And this is from a username that I know Erin's going to laugh at me when I say this. It's Yuppery Doodah. And I like to think that maybe the user decided to use that username somehow knowing that in the future one of us would have to read it. And it's like, I'm going to really mess with these broads. I'm going to mess with them with this weird-ass name. Yeah. So anyway, that name that I just said says, headline, always entertaining. Says, I love listening to these two hilarious broads talk about what they love most. Books. All caps, by the way. Books. Have taken their recommendations and read several of the books discussed and love them too. Highly recommend this podcast to any and all readers out there looking to be entertained. I mean, that's us. We are entertainers.
Yes. I couldn't have written it better or said it better myself.
I think Kenan Thompson said that in an SNL skit, and I've always loved it. Yeah,
that's fine.
We
if
are
it's Kenan Thompson, then I'm on board.
Yeah.
You don't even have to say anything else.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, until next week, happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and...
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
Cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you... This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.